So I've had the opportunity to work with Julia for many, many, many years when I was at Microsoft, and it's just been fantastic to see the kind of impact, the kind of accomplishment that Julia has had. If you have either developed some software or you have somebody in your organization that's building software, and if you have any interest in the Microsoft platform, you have to say thank you to Julia, because it's her team that is delivering pretty much all of the developer tools, developer services, developer platforms, GitHub, Copilot, anything and everything that developer would need to be successful on the Microsoft platform is coming from Julia's world. Great pleasure and honor to have Julia here. Please, Julia, come on up here.
I haven't had a one-on-one with Soma for a while.
It's a good old days.
I know.
Good to have you here, Julia.
Thank you. So great to be here. Such a great audience.
As I mentioned earlier, the group here is really like a smattering of people from small, medium, and large organizations. People who are decision makers and C-suite folks and leaders and founders kind of people. And as I said earlier, we sort of get this group together once a year, and we've been doing this for the last 8 years or so. So really excited to have you here. I should start with a story, okay? As you know, I left Microsoft many years ago. And then in 2021, I think in the spring of 2021, I had come back I had visited the Microsoft campus, okay? And this is for those of you who remember, 2020, the COVID broke out, 2021, there was some hope that hey, maybe things are, coming down. We didn't know at that time there was going to be a second wave. So it was 2021, and I'd come to Microsoft to meet with Satya. So Satya and I were having dinner at Microsoft. We couldn't go out for dinner, so dinner was inside Microsoft. So we were there, and he was, we're talking about many things, but one of the things that I vividly remember was he was telling me hey, Soma, dev is actually doing some good work. I said, thank you for telling me that now. But he said I don't know if you've seen this or not, but and I don't remember what it was called back then. But he said there is this thing that the GitHub guys are working on that's so amazing. I just saw a demo, this Copilot thing, and it's still it's early days, so who knows how long it's going to take for us to get it to market and get it to customers. But I'm so excited because it is going to really redefine what software development looks like for the world, and just the power of AI when you apply to something like code development or code generation is amazing. And to be fair, till then I had not heard anything about this GitHub Copilot, right? So I said hey, if this guy is of all the things that he's excited about, if he's spending so much time and so much energy and passion on this, I really need to go talk to Julia and figure out what the hell is going on here so that I can get equally excited about it kind of thing, right? And that's 2021 spring. We are now 2024 fall, okay? So about three years later.
Gosh, I have to say, in the last 24 months, my time is all warped. It's a little bit hard to tell which year, which month, because 2020, as you said, 2022 December was when the ChatGPT really launched, right? And 2023 Valentine's Day was our big Copilot for Business launch. So it was we internally called the Valentine's Day's release. So that's actually at this point 18 months ago when we had been this accelerated. I think that. So was it 21 or 22? I can't remember. Probably around that time.
But so early days, and today you have millions of developers using Copilot. In fact, today I saw recently you guys talked about the next step in GitHub Copilot, which is Copilot Spark and stuff like that. So wanted to hear from you a little bit about this journey and both the goods and the bads of the journey.
Thank you, Soma. I think that the journey has been very fast-paced, and I can definitely feel it's really accelerated. When we first started, Microsoft has been working on AI for a long time. It's one of the key passions of we have a lot of researchers. We have Satya really believes in AI, and really across Microsoft, we had many different AI projects for a long time. And the large language model was something Kevin, Scott, and Satya really focused on, and then with the partnership of OpenAI. And I would say the first time we actually got hand of the earlier version of GPT 3.5 model, we could tell this thing is different. After working on something for a long time, you get a little skeptical. You're yeah. When you got hand on this thing, you're wow, this is very different. I always describe that moment to me as a sort of like a horse carriage to steam engine transition moment, because you know you have different tools, you know you have different power in your hand. But at the same time, like none of us really built an AI product before. We're still learning how to build AI product. So we, so as the developer product, the key things we talked about is where is it most relevant, what is most useful, and then for us, everything has to be in context. If you kind of all around, it's a little bit, it's not focused on where developers spending the most time, and developers spend most time writing code, or at least they want to spend most time writing code. And then so the key feature we built, the first feature we built for Copilot is completion of code. In some ways, when we launch a product, it was also experiment, because we kind of launched the entire product on one capability, which is the ability to write code. And we rapidly know that that is absolutely necessary. We have to make that better, but it's definitely not sufficient. So very rapidly, so Valentine's release focused on code completion. And then we also made it available for businesses, which making sure that we spend a lot more time on enterprise data promises and all of those things, which we'll talk about later. And then following that, the things we really work on is chat, because ChatGPT have really showed the possibilities of chat. We want to include chat in our product roadmaps. At the same time, we're also, one of the good Microsoft traditions for a long time is called dog fooding, or also I have learned it's called drinking your own champagne. Which is really talking about like how we get all of the Microsoft developers to really try the early versions of our product, and they give us the most brutal, honest, critical feedbacks, as you can imagine. So with Microsoft, the good news is that we have some of the largest code bases of whether C++ or C# or Java with LinkedIn or TypeScript on the planet. So we actually got really broad feedback from within Microsoft about what's a good and bad, and what things work well, what things doesn't work well. And this has actually led us to additional bunch of capabilities that's under previews and development. For example, the Office team, with their very, very long-lived code bases, which has evolved from the early days of C to C++ to all of that. It's not a code base that like when OpenAI trained their model, they had seen anything similar. So it doesn't do as well in completions. That's why we kind of like, okay, for code bases like that, we really have to go do fine tuning based on your particular code base. That's a capability we start building into GitHub Copilot Enterprise. And then we have really great case studies now with, say, AMD, which will have gone on stage with us. Because when you have code bases like that Copilot has never seen, it's just not going to do great. We also have great successes with our gaming division, because things like Unity framework and Unreal gaming engine is not something that there's a lot of examples of that in the open source community. So the models are not great at those scenarios. So those are all kind of both learnings we have gotten working with our internal customers and working with external countries that we're incorporating our product to keep making it better. Actually, I do want to show, talking about external customer, you gave a couple of examples. There is can we see the next slide? Yeah. So it's also, great. It's great. Yeah. So it's also great that, we have a lot of people doing benchmarks. So I think you talk about example in a financial institution, they have the CIO gave you, CTO gave you a like kind of rough estimate. This is a real rigorous study that Accenture took 2 teams. They did A/B testing on their own team. Like one team with GitHub Copilot, one team without Copilot, and they were kind of set to go do the exact same tasks. There's actually a link. They kind of then blogged and talked about it on the web. They talk about how their teams with Copilot are happier. They got to the code completion much faster. The code builds much faster. Their satisfaction with their job is higher. It's just all around not only productivity, but the word we start to use is engineering thrive. That people really thrived in their job. They enjoy their job more. And that's the kind of feedback we're starting to hear. And to me, the days are still young. We're just the very, very early stage. We're only 18 months after the Copilot for Business release. And this morning is GitHub Universe, today and tomorrow. We actually announced a bunch of additional capabilities, and I will show a couple of them later on in our chat.
That'll be great. That'll be great. There is this sort of famous or infamous, depending on how you look at it, saying that says like, hey, we tend to overestimate what is possible in a year's time frame, okay? And we tend to underestimate what is possible in a decade's time frame, okay? there's all kinds of sort of, what should I say, conversations and debates about like, hey, what does the future of software development look like? And how is AI going to change it, hopefully for the positive? But what is the AI's impact on software development, but also for software developers, right? How do you think about, particularly with what you think is coming down the pike in the coming years, how do you think the role of a software developer and software development is going to change?
Yeah, so this is something also inside Microsoft we spend a lot of time talking about. We kind of think about this as, like there's software development is fundamentally about creating a product or you're automating a set of things particularly inside enterprise. And a lot of time we start talking about this notion of the development team is not just about developers. You actually have business analysts, you have people who are familiar with the workflow. We're talking about empowering that team to deliver more. So, how can the business, analyst starting doing prototypes, showing what this thing can be done, versus they have to wait for a developer to become available to get the jobs to be done. So we have another set of investment in Microsoft. It's really on what we call no-code development. And I actually want to show a couple of the scenarios that we really talk about. Is that what are some of the interesting Gen AI use cases? And for us, the ones we see is that it's actually making your employee experiences much better, because sometimes when an employee wants to go do something, they have to go ask people around, like, how do I do something? And some of these are just particularly in large enterprises. It's like even just getting a support ticket, and all of that can be quite time consuming, right? Customer support is another one we just see over and over again. There's external facing customer support, internal facing IT support. These are all things that just takes a lot of time. And I'll also share this data point that by leveraging Gen AI capabilities, in GitHub customer support last year, we were able to save 28% of cost in terms of like revenue to cost ratio. So that's another thing, and then obviously we're talking about how using AI to create a top line, which is really bend the innovation curve. I want to show a demo with Copilot Studio to show like what is actually possible.
Let's look at the new capabilities inside Copilot Studio through the lens of a fictitious telecommunications company called Fabricam. Typically, Fabricam gets millions of visitors browsing their website for devices and other wireless services. So they want to embed a new customer Copilot to assist prospective customers do anything from change plans, get rebates, and more. The Copilot starts by asking me if I'm a new or existing customer. So let's say I'm a potential customer interested in switching from my current mobile carrier. This is going to allow me to compare my current plan and see what they have to offer instead. And it does this in an incredibly rich experience. Here you can see how it is telling me to upload my latest phone bill from a competitor so that it can fully analyze it and give me a personalized recommendation. This is my current plan from Contoso phone carrier that it will analyze. I have 3 lines with unlimited data, several mobile devices, and it costs me about $230 a month. I think Fabricam can do better than this. I'll upload that file from my local machine directly to the chat with the customer Copilot. In a few seconds, the Copilot has generated a personalized recommendation for me. And with the Fabricam plan, it looks like I can save close to $960 per year. All I need to do now is confirm that I want to switch and start the process of moving carriers. And this was all through a great conversational experience embedded directly in their website. Let me show you how a powerful Copilot like this can be built right in Microsoft Copilot Studio. Copilot Studio provides a simple, clear, and easy way to build a Copilot that you can embed in your website or mobile application. All you have to do is define the instructions for the Copilot, configure a set of knowledge resources, topics, and actions, and the large language model will self-assemble a conversation experience that is optimal for your users. This means your Copilot is robust and can answer countless questions without hard-coding dialogues or topics. I've built a world-class conversational experience, but now I also want to make it possible for my Copilot to run in the background. With the new agent capabilities in Copilot Studio, the Copilot I just published can also automate entire processes asynchronously. In this case, I will make Copilot to trigger when a customer wants to convert their account to Fabricam. But you can also have triggers that come from databases, systems, or applications that can start the Copilot even from outside of a chat conversation. This may be hard to visualize, so let me open up a run from earlier where I can easily review every Copilot interaction. Here, you can see that the Copilot has been running an account conversion process for customers who switched to Fabricam after chatting with Copilot on the website. The Copilot is asynchronously managing the process in the background. It's validating the user's identity, it's matching the customer's profile with available promotions, it's generating a secure payment link, and it's sending an onboarding survey. The Copilot decides on the correct actions to use to get the desired outcome for the customer. And it self-assembles the end-to-end process based on the data I provide. I can see the thought process as it did all of that. In this case, it's researching available discounts and plan suggestions on behalf of the customer. These new agent capabilities in Copilot Studio make it easy to create incredibly powerful copilots. And by combining generative AI, conversational development, and custom code, dev teams can quickly build complex autonomous copilots.
So this is I think about this as examples of how does a development team working together on ideating, getting something up to running very quickly, and then the combination of the ease of the tools as well as the power of professional developer tools to supply additional APIs and AI capabilities. So as a team, how we can get more done, not with necessarily having to go hire more engineers. Because I think that with AI, just with new tools, there'll be a lot more new scenarios people are thinking about. I want to show another scenario. The next one is really about internal IT. This one will be very familiar with people.
I'm going to show you how Microsoft Copilot Studio can help Cineplex triage hardware issues and streamlining the repair process, ensuring the user gets the help needed quickly. With Copilot Studio, we have simplified the process of developing, testing, deploying, and monitoring copilots. So let's jump in to look at this copilot. At the top here, you'll see goals and instructions which are key to guiding Copilot during planning and executions. Scrolling down, there is a list of actions specific to providing support and hardware troubleshooting. Let's do a quick test to see how this Copilot will behave, to build confidence with the maker on how it will respond to a variety of scenarios. I can interact like an end-to-end user by asking Copilot, how can I fix the issue I have with my laptop? And in the conversation map, I can see what's happening in the conversation and why it's happening. Copilot first gets relevant knowledge-based articles directly from ServiceNow, using one of the configured actions. Copilot answers with some troubleshooting steps, but they don't solve my issue. And as next step, Copilot is able to understand my request and immediately checks the warranty status for my laptop. And I want to pause a moment on this. I have not given specific instructions to Copilot around how to check warranty or even how to check knowledge-based articles. Based on my questions, on the context, and on the actions configured, Copilot is capable to infer that the best option is first to use one of the ServiceNow actions to check knowledge-based articles, and then use another ServiceNow actions to check the warranty status. In addition to that, Copilot goes through my calendar to find the best option to schedule a meeting request with a technician. This is awesome, but the real power of Copilots comes from monitoring and teaching based on real-world events and examples to improve Copilot's outcomes. To do that, let's take a look at the list of historical runs for this Copilot. The key to Copilot autonomy is building trust that it behaves accurately and reliably. Copilot won't always be able to handle every situation and will need a human to handle exceptions and guide it to improve outcomes. Look here, beyond the successful runs, we can see some exceptions, and this provides valuable teaching opportunities to better handle similar scenarios in the future. So let's drill down into one to learn more. And on the left, Copilot built a dynamic plan to help the user to troubleshoot their laptop. And we can see the important details, steps, and connected system it used to get the job done. And on the right, it is summarizing the Copilot thought process and reasoning at runtime for this workflow. And upon clicking the details of an action, we can find the precise thought process of Copilot prior to taking this step. This is an opportunity to teach this agent to how to become more automated and provide a better experience. So we will click on Teach here, and this Copilot agent is designed to learn and adapt with learning capabilities and learn examples from continuous improvements. The agent correctly identifies the situation and offers suggestions. This monitoring, teaching, and continuous improvement of Copilot agents is key to unlocking more automation and to help us get more work done.
I think the keyword here is automation an agent, right? If you really go back to your IT and think about where are a lot of time that you're having to go from person A to person B, system A to B to C, and how human has to go drive a lot of these things that's happening. How can you automate more of that by leveraging agent? That's actually a really, really great way to think about what are all the possibilities of getting that productivity gains within your IT process.
Great. You referenced a couple of times, Julie, already about there are a bunch of new things that are coming up. So far, if you look at it, whether it's from GitHub Copilot or everything that the other guys are doing, it's been centered mostly around what I call code generation, right? Or code completion, code generation, right? As we know, software development is much broader than that, okay? There are different tasks, you have to think about coding, you have to think about, refactoring, you have to think about testing, you have to think about code reviews, you have to think about documentation. There's a lot of different things that need to come, right? Do you see AI continuing to expand to the full software development life cycle? And if so, are there some examples that you can talk about, what is coming down the pike?
Yeah, no, the answer is absolutely yes. I think that, as I say, as we're keep enriching the Copilot experiences. So today in the chat experiences, you can already say, /test to actually generate tests. You can actually, take a chunk of code and actually ask it to explain for you. That's actually one of the most used features, particularly when you have developers onboarding a code base they have never seen before. Developers do not like to write tests, and developers do not like to write documentation. We know that for a fact. And so on GitHub.com, we actually also, as you actually submit pull requests, we actually also do automatic pull request reviews for developers to really get your code flow faster versus waiting for more developers. And in the end, humans are still in control. We can add documentation, we can add tests on all of those things. And what we're also moving towards is that we're actually introducing PR reviews within your IDE. So even before you submit your code to your team to look at, an AI agent can help you review your code. When I talked to one of the customers, they said, when using GitHub Copilot, what they discovered is that the fresh out of college crowd, they were sending in so much more pull requests for the more senior engineer to review. But they were probably less experienced, so they may not have the best code. So the velocity increased, but they also increased the amount of work for the senior engineer to do code reviews. So we're like, okay, the PR reviews is one of the things. So they're super excited about that. And then more importantly, as we look, take a step back and look at the software development, it's incredibly crazy how much time people are spending in what we call reducing technical debt, co-maintenance kind of scenarios. What does that look like? Moving from this version of Java to that version of Java, upgrading your frameworks, upgrading your test frameworks, upgrading your libraries and dependencies, and moving infrastructures and cleaning up pipelines. There's just enormous amount of technical debt which is constantly accruing. You have new packages you have to go validate and do pull requests on because there's a CV discovered in your npm package. I mean, if you think about how much time your engineer actually spent doing those things, it amounts to a huge amount of work. So that is actually where we're also, another key area of our focus is that how can we really automate and using agent to help you take care of as much of these technical debt work as possible. Because I will say that the first time many developers approach this type of work, you actually learn something. The second time, maybe you still learn something. The third, fourth, fifth, sixth, you really don't learn anything. You're just going through the motions. Let's have an AI engineer help you make these kind of work dramatically easier. So we just showed this demo this morning in GitHub Universe. It's a Java upgrade scenarios. I want to show you what that looks like.
This assistant uses a multi-agent AI framework to update your Java app. It analyzes your project and prepares an upgrade plan, including dealing with frameworks like Spring Boot and JUnit. Then, during the upgrade process, it automatically transforms your code and fixes issues through a dynamic build-fix loop. This also includes a human-in-the-loop approach so that you can address errors and make fixes as necessary. Best yet, the assistant learns from your fixes on the fly, and it can apply them to resolve additional tasks. At every step, you stay in control, and you can review the file changes, the commits and diffs, all logs and output, and see summaries of all file and dependency changes. Once you've tested the changes, Copilot can also help you create the pull request.
So for this type of change, right, when we talk to customers, one of the first things we also hear is that usually there's not enough tests. So they're like, I can upgrade the code, but I don't even know whether this upgraded code will actually have the same behavior as what the previous code is. So, so if you connect what I talked about earlier, like how can we get using AI to help you create more test cases that provide the right amount of test coverage, then leveraging AI agent to do more of the automated, upgrade for you. And during the upgrade process, what we have learned is that we do need human decision making. Because sometimes, there's a choice, like do I actually doing modernization at the same time, or I'm just upgrading exactly as it is? And those requires human intervention and sort of like additional guidance and building the plan with the agent before the agent actually just runs off and makes a bunch of the assumptions and does the work. And then the auto compile fix loop is, when you runs compile errors, the agent can also try to learn how to go correct it automatically, right? So you can actually iterate, on your behalf, maybe overnight. Mm-hmm. And when you come in the next morning and see where it's at. And when you need help, you actually know to abort and actually ask for help. And then the help you have provided can provide as blueprint or recipes for other changes in your code base, for other changes kind of like that. So that's the kind of thing we're seeing about where AI and agent can kind of go. Another scenario of you really using agent is really, to your point earlier, Soma, about how we can get agent to help you brainstorm ideas and things like that. I want to show you another demo this morning from GitHub Universe on GitHub Workspace.
Our demo app, Copilot Airways, has a travel guide. Right now, it's just a map and a description of the recommended cities, because on the admin page, that's all we get. Let's add a feature that lets us add images to each post. One of my team members has already described our needs in a GitHub issue. With Copilot Workspace, I can start off right here from an issue. Copilot Workspace gets to work right away on a specification to help implement this issue. With the new brainstorm feature, we can use Copilot Workspace much more iteratively. Based on the context, Brainstorm shares a few suggested questions to get started with some ideas, or I can even ask my own. So let's brainstorm here and ask what options we have for image uploads. And just like that, it's listed a few ideas for me, like adding an image upload field to the form, using a third-party image upload service, creating a reusable image upload component, etc. They're all valid, but let's stick to a simple image upload field for our feature. We can click Add to Task to include it in our list of ideas. You can see that Copilot Workspace has picked up the ideas from our brainstorming for its context. So now it's not just a GitHub issue, but Workspace derives its context from multiple sources, as you can see here. Looks good to me. Let's click Generate Plan to move forward. Workspace generates a list of what changes to make in which files. And then, when we are ready, we can ask Copilot to implement the plan by making changes to the necessary files. Copilot Workspace has made changes to multiple files to implement our plan. You can see that it's added the input field we needed. However, it seems like the implementation lacks showing the preview of the image we want to upload. With Copilot Workspace, we can now keep iterating on the plan and the implementation by asking for a revision. Let's ask Copilot for a revision. I can talk to Copilot in natural language, and that means I can even use an Indic language like Hindi with Copilot. I will ask it an equivalent of show a preview of the image after I've uploaded one. Awesome! Copilot Workspace understood what I meant. It updates the plan and has also implemented the changes in my file, which you can see right here. Before moving forward, let's run some tests first. we've made some great enhancements to the commands you can perform in Copilot Workspace. Build, test, and run are pretty common scenarios, and I have the commands configured here. I can run the test command right here within Workspace, which will run the tests for me. Looks like the test failed. I can ask Copilot Workspace to fix this for me. The new build and repair agent of Copilot Workspace helps me come up with a solution which I can apply right here within Copilot Workspace. And it has gone ahead and made the changes for me. I can go back and rerun my tests now with the fixes that Copilot Workspace has helped me make. Great! Now I can see that all of my tests succeed. Now I think my feature might be ready. I want to see a preview of my app. I can go back and use the run command. If I haven't already configured the command, Copilot Workspace can help me by suggesting a command based on my project. I can go back and run this right here within Copilot Workspace. And I can even open a live preview of my app that's going to run within Copilot Workspace for me. Great. Let me go into the admin page. And there is my image upload field. I can choose an image to upload. And there it is. I can see a preview of the image I've uploaded, which is the feature that I wanted to implement. In the past few minutes, we went from an idea described on an issue, brainstormed with Copilot Workspace, implemented code, and fixed errors, all while working in natural language.
So this is really thinking about kind of, the two different demos. One shows you how to leverage the agent in a highly interactive fashion. So you're kind of co-creating, what you want, from GitHub issues and all of that. The second one is actually in a much more autonomous fashion, kind of upgrading your entire code base. And depending on the particular tasks and issues and scenarios you have in hand, you can leverage both of those at the same time to really help you rapidly go through the entire development lifecycle.
That's great. No, I haven't seen the demos from the GitHub Universe today kind of thing, but it's fantastic to see that you guys are expanding in both dimensions kind of thing, right? So let me pause now and see if let me open it to the audience for a few minutes and see if people have here any questions for Julia. Go ahead, Tim.
That's great. So first of all, I use fine-tuning. It's a very precise term because you want the basic large language models as the foundation. Just training of your code base, we have tried that. That was our older approach. That was the horse carriage approach. We have trained many different things. It didn't quite work. So you need to use the large language model as a foundation and fine-tune your code base. We have tried both approaches. I can tell you fine-tuning gives you significantly better results. So that's one. The second thing when I think about security and governance and all of that, I would say that both extremes are bad, okay? So one extreme is like, everything must be in my data center. I only want to run things, like on-prem. I think that's the most secure. I kind of view that world as maybe in the old days of you just keep working on your carriage, because the best options of the large language models only runs in the cloud. And then then there's significant work among all of the hyper clouds to kind of continuously refining the model and working on the latest model, reducing costs. A lot of that stuff is on operating these models. These things are not easy to operate, I can tell you. So kind of that world of like I do everything myself, I think it's very limiting. You will fall behind in terms of the race on all the other productivity gains. Then there's the other, extreme, I will say. They're just like, everything goes, like people can use whatever tools they want. And this is sort of like, I encourage any enterprise to read the EULA agreement of all of these tools and just deeply understand. There was a very famous case of, I think was Samsung's engineers just randomly used, and then their code ended up in the training set because that was part of the EULA usage agreement. So I think that it's kind of like, I think either extreme is very bad. I would encourage you to carefully read, the usage, know what you're getting into. And then one of the things I would say that, Microsoft did very well, and I really appreciate, was that we provide IP indemnification for all of our Copilot usage. So in some ways that, the entire resource of Microsoft is behind. They don't have to worry about IP indemnification. That's just not a thing. And then because we cover for it. And then at the same time, we have worked with a lot of these financial institutions on, sort of like, they want to audit every single one of our data points, understanding where the data are coming from, et cetera, et cetera. And we have gone through all of that, and we're very strict. Your data is your data, just like in Azure, your kind of everything sits in your own network. We kind of run the data through, the large language models. Everything is kind of stateless. It just goes back. So we kind of pass that. And then I think that's actually a pretty good kind of an intermediate in terms of really leveraging the cloud and get going as quickly as you can. I do believe that if you're not using Gen AI, you are going to fall behind. I think it's just a matter of how much you're going to fall behind. Yeah, no, that's a great question. I will tell you, a lot of work we do before we deliver something to enterprise is that we do huge amount of data science behind it. Models are known to hallucinate. And then we also have really rigorous, responsible AI filters and all of those to kind of making sure the thing doesn't deviate. I will tell you one of the latest models we evaluated. I will not name who. We're like, wow, this one doesn't really follow instructions too well. So we're like, we're not shipping that one because that's a little problematic because it can kind of run away. So I think that as part of the product making, we really think about what a model can deliver, how accurate it is, and that's all actually part of our evaluation criteria. So when anyone who's using Gen AI underlying models to build your own product, that's another important consideration, is to have the underlying benchmarks and what we call offline evaluation, online evaluation, to make sure that it's meeting the set of enterprise standards that you have. I think that at least what we have learned so far, and there's so many different scenarios. So I'm going to go focus on what I know well, which is coding scenarios. So for coding scenarios, what we have really learned is that the fine tuning is very scenario driven, because the data you provided is actually kind of different depending on the scenarios, and the requirement is also a little different. And then it's not always that the most accurate is better. That's another very interesting thing, because for example, in the first scenario we released, the code completion scenarios, we talk a lot about interaction class because you're in the middle of typing code. So that it has to be really fast. And then basically we control the latency to be within like less than 100 milliseconds. The entire thing has to be less. So basically the prompt gets created, gets sent to the cloud, and response has to come, everything within the 100 millisecond time. Otherwise people kind of feel like this editor is kind of lagging. We can see that in trying different chat models. Sometimes the chat is more accurate, but then it takes many seconds for the answer to come back, and we just see developers like, I don't have time, like cancel. So we actually, so this is why it's so important to actually in the product making to really look at, we talk about interaction cloud, look at accuracy and cost trade-offs as well. That's another important part. So we always look at latency, accuracy and cost trade-offs. And then in terms of like fine-tuning the model, having underlying benchmark data set is super important. We definitely need to get through expertise, usually not QA people, but really data science people, because you have to go have a true evaluation of A/B testing and like create the right benchmarks and metrics and all of that. So machine learning expert are some of the key expertise. We're starting to really have to go higher for and actually build up to build a true AI product. So, and then we have not had to do human labeling yet. I'm keep threatening my team that I might have to go get them to go do some human labeling, but we're just not quite there yet. So that's all I can share right now.
That's great. Thank you, Julia. I think we should probably wrap it up. We can keep talking for a while, but thank you so much. That's great.